All right, welcome on into the show. My name is Deny Gallagher, and I'm joined by the Snare Campaign Provocateur. And it is a new year. It's a new him. It's Benny Horowitz. What's up, dude? Happy 2021.
Denny, did you make any resolutions?
I made a resolution to be a little bit better of a person and, maybe not storm the Capitol. How about that?
What's it entail to be a better person? What are the Deny Gallagher gems of wisdom for this year?
I think, not posting anything problematic online, and just being charitable. How about that? Being charitable. That's being a good person.
I like that. It's a mitzvah.
Yeah. How about you? Do you have any New Year's resolutions?
Nothing too specific. More just continuing on the quest I'm always on, which is the acceptance of self, the foregoing of your sense of identity, understanding what's important, and I think specifically staying inside of moments, not existing before, not existing after, just existing inside of every minute that's happening. It's a good time for that movie Soul to come out.
Oh yeah, you saw that over the break we had here?
Oh, I've seen it a few times. I cried in front of my children.
Oh wow.
Did you see it? Did you cry?
I saw it. I was a little confused in the first 20 minutes, but then once it really got going, I was so into that movie.
Yeah.
Man, no, Pixar doesn't make kids movies anymore. This is straight up adult shit.
I mean, I think they're doing a good job of telling the line there, yeah. It definitely leaves like a parent in a position where you got to be prepared to explain thoroughly, and like you got to have a game plan before you watch a movie like that with little kids, because you don't want to just like toss an existential crisis on a toddler. Like if they're not having it yet, let them enjoy their childhood a couple more years if you can. They don't have to see cloudy black souls running around that are bogged down by their problems. They don't really understand the hedge fund manager being too consumed with stock prices. All they see is the creepy black soul with long arms running around going
and they don't see the fact that apparently the afterlife has been messing with the Knicks for years.
Exactly. I mean, listen, Disney did it to me. I still haven't gotten over Mufasa dying. I saw the cover up of Mufasa's murder as a small child. I never trusted anyone again. Disney ruined it.
I'm like the same way with Snow White. That witch just kind of stand outside of the house. That kind of messed me up. And then when you get to the staying home alone portion of life, it's like, fuck, that witch is outside the entire time.
Yeah, there's some shit going on at Disney. I know people want to look into it.
For the first time in 2021, let's get into this day in music history. Benny, what do you got?
On this day in 91, Sean Lennon, then 15 years old Sean Lennon, remade his father's Give Peace a Chance to coincide with the UN's midnight deadline for Iraq to withdraw from Kuwait. So a very like politically motivated move for a 15-year-old. The idea was brought up by Lenny Kravitz. They secured the rights to the song, got Sean Lennon and Yoko Ono on board within like 8 days, remade it with people like Tom Petty and Peter Gabriel and LL Cool J, and it went on VH1 and MTV. One of those really nice things. And one of the reasons I wanted to bring this up is how in the course of my life, how little stuff like this does, because it was overshadowed quickly by UN airstrikes against Iraq, which began on January 16th, following with the ground invasion. So the song didn't work, but it was a nice effort. And I thought it was impressive that a 15-year-old Sean Lennon was the one that that put this together in like 9 days with Lenny Kravitz. That dude is cool, and has a lot of receipts, a good track record, you know.
Oh, that's great. You know, he's kind of like the Greta Thunberg of the 90s.
Maybe.
Yeah.
I think it's time for another give peace a chance. Maybe who do we let have a stab at this one? Drake? Give beats a chance.
Give beats a chance. What would it be, like Afrobeat?
I don't know.
All right. Do you mind if I get personal for today's this day in music history?
Nah, man. It's your forum.
All right, cool. So, unfortunately, and I'm going to try not to say this like happily, but on this day 5 years ago, my dad passed away. And you know, I don't really think in terms of like music, right? I'm doing this pod and anything pop culture. If it wasn't for him, ironically enough, my dad and my mom met promoting shows at the Jersey Shore back in the day, in like Asbury and like the Neptune City area. And then, you know, just go bring me to concerts and stuff like that. Really kind of introduced me to kind of a like, he was into everything, but more of like a folksy side of music. Big Harry Chapin guy. So like that kind of you know, like folk storytelling really got me into that at a young age. And then ironically at the end of his life got into like new age and like world music. So like had like in my childhood a lot of Yanni going on in the car.
Right.
So like it's all over the place. The
Trying to
music
chill it out.
Yeah. So like I said, 5 years ago, ironically, one of the first you know, like festivals we ever went to was Bamboozle that you guys played in 2012. So how about that?
Oh, that's an honor that you and Pops saw me play. I love
Yeah,
that.
man. That was a good show. That was right before Handwritten, right?
Yeah, sounds about right. Well, hats off to Mr. Gallagher. The legacy lives on. You do a radio show with a D-list.
Oh, come on.
Rock and roll musician.
At least C-list. At least.
Things to be proud. No, that's awesome, Denny. Thanks for that. I appreciate it.
All right, so it's been a busy 2021 already, but you know, we are preeminently a basketball show. I know in the music genre, anywhere you listen to podcasts, but we are a basketball show. And Benny, stuff happened this week. You know, I know that there's a lot of things happening, capital related, social media related, and we'll get into all that in just a little bit, election related. But the biggest news, arguably, of 2021 is the fact that James Harden, the Beard, traded to your Benny Horowitz Brooklyn Nets. After a lifetime of suffering, you can finally say that on paper, at least, you have the best team in the NBA currently. And Benny, I just want to, you know, let you float on this for a little bit, because there's a high ceiling for this, but I think there's an even lower floor for this.
Yeah. All right. Well, there's a lot to unpack.
Yeah.
As you said. Okay.
Do you want me to run down the actual trade before we get into this, like the specific?
No, I mean, I know it in and out. We'll discuss it as we go.
Okay.
I mean, essentially what the big pieces are: Karis LeVert is now a Pacer. Jared Allen is now a Cleveland Cavalier. Selected scraps and Victor Oladipo go back to Houston, including 3 future Nets first round draft picks and 4 Nets future first round pick swaps. So obviously the Rockets are short betting the Nets, assuming that they'll have a year or two of contention, and then these picks coming up in 24, 25, 26 will be very valuable. Who knows if, I mean, the NBA needs a country to play in. So we'll see. I was even joking in my head. I'm like, all right, Sean Marks is from New Zealand. The owner is Chinese. I'm like, oh, are they just, this isn't a short bet against the Nets future. This is a short bet against America. They're like 2 more years tops. 2025 draft. Well, it's not even going to be a draft. No, that's a joke. I don't think that's gonna happen. But all right, so since there's so much to unpack,
Yeah.
let's start with the good stuff.
Yeah.
Okay. So you now have 3 players on the same team with 24 All-Star appearances between them, 18 All-NBA appearances between them. I imagine some of the setups with these guys, Kevin Durant and Harden pick and roll. My goodness, like how do you defend that if it's on the floor? Um, the lineup now we're looking at, DeAndre Jordan as the starting center. Hopefully Nick Claxton slides back for some minutes soon, but I'm assuming we're going to have a lot of small ball lineups with KD playing some center, Jeff Green playing some center, and trying to float lineups like that. They still have some depth. I've been hearing people say, they have no depth. They kept on to Spencer Dinwiddie, which is big for next year. They have his bird rights, and I think at the very least, we'll have Spencer Dinwiddie next year. Joe Harris, I mean, talk about a guy who's about to just, he created a role for himself and he became even a better player than he's going to need to be in this new situation. And you give me a guy like Joe Harris sitting on the outside, just eating up wide open threes, pretty much 30 minutes a game. I'll take it. Bruce Brown in small doses already so far this season has shown to be he's a perimeter deficient player on offense, but he's a very good on the ball defender. He's tough. He rebounds. He's an interesting 2 guard who can handle and play a little point. I think he's versatile and will help the team a lot. We still have Cabarrot. We still have Landry Shamet. We still have Jeff Green. So I think if you have those 3 players, you could make the argument that the closest comp to a team like this might have been, the Cavs or something in 17 or a team like that. And I would argue that this team has as much depth, if not more, than that team. So this is as far as a fit on the floor. That's a big question about this. And I don't think a comp exists in the history of the NBA, right? So, I mean, everybody's talking big threes. And, let's go through the more famous ones in this context. Ray Allen and Paul Pierce and Kevin Garnett, not this. Yeah. Bosh, Wade, and LeBron, not this. Durant, Steph, and Clay, not this. There's never been a situation where these 3 in the big 3 are all ball handlers and all people who kind of get cooking when they have the ball in their hands, specifically Harden in that capacity, because you've seen Kyrie play off ball before. But I think that is a huge question mark, is how it's going to fit. And who out of that group is going to decide to take a different sort of role? Yeah. And that's going to have to be necessary. Someone is going to have to be okay taking less shots. Someone is going to have to be okay playing a little out of position. So that is a question mark. We don't know how it's going to be answered yet. Defensively, another big question mark. Harden, I think, is a super underrated defender, and he's certainly not below average. I think the issue you have here now is you look at this starting 5, and more often than not, Kevin Durant is probably going to have to cover the most talented 3 or 4 on the opposing team any night, and that's a lot to ask out of him. I've been saying it since the start of the year. There seems to be a clear need for a perimeter defender of some sort on this team because they really just don't have one. But I think those are some of the downsides. But let's talk Harden here a little. Just straight Harden, right? Super durable. He's played 78 games more than 6 times in his career. He doesn't get hurt a lot. He has no nagging injuries. Over the last 7 seasons, he's averaged over 7 assists a game, 85% plus free throw shooter, He has quick hands. He gets steals. He's strong. He can body up on most threes, most fours. Like everybody's talking right now, and we're talking and we're talking and we're talking, and we're gonna say all the pluses and all the minuses. But once you get these three guys on the floor together, this is sort of like an unparalleled, unnavigated thing in basketball. And I think it's quick to find all the things that won't work because we haven't seen this before. But these are three like really smart basketball players, winners, people who have gone to any lengths of championships and playoff runs and know what it takes to play winning basketball. And I don't think people are just like excited enough about this. Take away me being a Nets fan. Like, this is fun. This is fun for the league. And imagine on any given night, if you can manage to get these guys consistently on the floor together and engaged, the idea that like Kyrie Irving is going to be playing the third best defender on the floor every night, or James Harden is going to play the third best defender on the floor every night. I mean, these guys are going to eat fucking people's lunch. So there's a lot to unpack here. I have a couple more points, but let me hear a couple of thoughts from you.
Yeah, so this is 100% an insurance policy for Kyrie Irving.
Yeah,
It's been
right.
well made over the last couple of weeks how he's been kind of not absent from the team, but he has taken a step back for whatever reason. You can cite personal reasons all you want. And it's a situation where, this guy did this in Boston. He did this near the end of Cleveland. So with Kyrie Irving, it's all about commitment right now. With that being said, these three guys have some of the highest usage rates in NBA history. Like just flat out, like you said, they need the ball in their hands. The interesting thing, and we've heard Chris Bosh say this about when he joined the Big Three in Miami. There's a huge difference when it comes to defining your role. When Bosh was in Toronto, he was taking 25 shots per game, right? When he got to Miami, it was you get 15 shots a game. And the big difference between taking and getting, when you're taking, you're free, the offense is yours. When you're getting, that's going to require the coach, whether it be Spo in Miami or Steve Nash here, to be like 15 hard cap, not to quote James Harden. And it's like a situation where if you're a superstar who's been doing this for a while, like James Harden, I don't know if you can accept that, or Kyrie Irving. Like, imagine Nash tries to tell Kyrie Irving, hey, 15 shots maximum. I don't think that's going to happen. I think the guy most likely to listen and, take a step back would be Kevin Durant. But Kevin Durant can't do that in Brooklyn. He came to Brooklyn to kind of change the narrative that he could be the guy on a championship team. This move does that for him. So if Kevin Durant is the only guy that's going to be selfless here, that's a huge problem and completely defeats the purpose of this move. Now, with that said, I think Harden, when he comes to Brooklyn, is going to be in tremendous shape. Kevin Durant and Harden, I have no questions about. That's going to work out great.
Yeah.
And quite frankly, I think now the Nets probably have more chemistry than most of the teams in the Eastern Conference. I mean, you look at a team like Milwaukee, they added a lot of pieces, really a whole new core outside of Brook, Giannis, and Middleton. You look at the problems going on in Philadelphia. They tried to trade Ben Simmons. That's allegedly fine now, but you can never really know. Then you go up to Boston, a lot of injuries, a lot of Brad Stevens trying to figure stuff out. So when you can bring in guys that played together, not only in the NBA in KD and James Harden, but you bring guys that have Olympic experience and have won together, that's a huge plus. So I'm not sure how many teams currently in the NBA have this kind of chemistry. It may be like riding a bike and they may need to figure it out a little bit. But I think once they figure it out, it'll be no bueno. Now, for the rest of the NBA, I should say. Now, the interesting thing here is this is a perfect move for a shortened season, because normally you would need the depth that they had. Losing a guy like Karis LeVert is huge, but when you have what do we have, like 50 or some odd regular season games left before the playoffs, That is enough time to escalate this thing where they're gelling cohesively. So when you have a shortened season like this, bringing in another superstar is huge, and I don't think they're gonna miss having a guy like Allen. I know on the defensive end that's significant, but the longer a season goes, if they were going from October to June, I could see where all those pieces would be necessary. But if you're in win now mode, like the Nets now are, and you can add a superstar, you 100% do it right now. Great job by the Nets. And our guy Ryan Rucco tweeted this out the other day. 5 years ago, the Nets, no assets, no anything. And in 5 years, they, through strong front office decisions, they were able to leverage what they have into a big three. And the Nets have never been able to do this. And I can't stress this enough. You do a move like this when you really haven't had high level success, and this move takes them there, and the window is now here. It's open. And quite frankly, I hope they get it, because the New York sports scene needs this. I mean, the Knicks, Yankees, Giants, Jets, Nets, all of that stuff, not really relevant nationally. So I think it's a rebirth of sorts of a once proud, very ABA franchise. And I know that Nets had a run in the mid 2000s. So to rejuvenate New York sports like this, I don't think, everyone's talking about the Nets now. And that's what this move is about. But ultimately, it's about winning championships.
That's right. I mean, I think you bring up a couple strong points about this and things that are certainly true, which is, on the surface, you'd say this is a rookie coach who has to go tell Kevin Durant or Kyrie Irving that they're going to have this amount of shots or this. First off, Steve Nash knows better than that. Nobody's getting a hard cap on their shots. They're certainly not being told like that. It'll be, put forth in a different way. And the one thing we have sitting there that's a big part of this is Mike D'Antoni sitting on the bench, who vouched for James Harden to come and obviously has a connection and knows how to work with him. Like, everybody there thinks this can work. The players there think this can work. So that's where, James Harden, his usage rate, like, the team was built around that. Do I think he ever has a season where he, like 2018, where he has, 26 shot attempts a game on average or something? I don't think so. I think that was kind of an anomaly. And, it was sort of the culmination of the new era of basketball that the Warriors ushered in, and James Harden kind of, like no other person, maximized more than anybody. So I do think it's a concern with shots and fit, but I do think that there is a road to it working, and you have very much the right pieces in place to make it work. Secondly, for your other point that this trade was Kyrie Irving insurance, I think because of the timeline and the chronology of this, that seems to be 100% true. Kyrie goes missing for a week, 2 weeks, whatever's happening with him. And then all of a sudden, James Harden gets extra grumpy. I don't know if that was a text from Kevin Durant. It might have been. And then before you know it, there's this bidding war between, Philly and Brooklyn. They literally overwhelm them with picks. Like, how could the Rockets say no? And to me, it definitely shows an indication that they were afraid. Kevin Durant's not locked down for like the next 5 seasons. Last year was a wash while he was hurt, and they simply cannot afford for 2 years of Kevin Durant to be a wash. So if you're about to go through the rest of this season with the best players on the team, aside from Kevin Durant, being Karis LeVert and Joe Harris and Jared Allen, sure, that might be a good team. They might be fine, but that team's not winning a championship. They're not getting past the Bucks, I don't think. They're not getting past the Lakers or the Clippers, I don't think. So I think that's what they had in mind, was the idea that, okay, now Kyrie, obviously we want him. We need him. We want him to be here. But if he's not, we still have James Harden and Kevin Durant. and that's good enough to get us through the East. And I think it almost certainly is. So I think you're 100% right that this was Kyrie Irving insurance. Um, there's no answer for that. And the last thing Sean Marks could do was wind up in a year and a half with no championship, no picks, and no Kevin Durant and no Kyrie Irving. And then all of a sudden you have Joe Harris and Jared Allen on fat contracts and a bunch of like mid first round picks. So I like that it got done. I'm increasingly talking myself into it by the minute. And the one thing I think people forget, and we get into the analysis and we want to say, oh, ball dominant, and people don't like James Harden necessarily. That's not me. Like, the guy's never done anything that offensive that it's really bothered me. I mean, it's one of these weird lines we draw in sports when guys like Kyrie Irving and James Harden and Kevin Durant, they're all like particularly like crotchety sometimes, not the best interviews. One is politically motivated. One is very known for his nightlife antics, you know. But the one thing is, like, have you ever heard about these people like beating their girlfriends, messing around with like like doing all this awful shit that we're always like allowing to pass, you know? These guys didn't do anything that awful. You just maybe don't like them that much. What the fuck does it matter if James Harden goes out at night? I actually kind of respect it. I come from a world where you need to perform drunk. You need to perform hungover, This is part of the game, baby. You're not going to Miami for 2 nights and not having a couple bevs, and you still got to get out there and play, and good for them. They still do. So I have no beef with it. It's just like everybody wants to hate. And you know what? Like, I just want to watch these 3 fucking guys play basketball together, right? Like, simply put.
Yeah, no, no, I think that this is going to be a great thing for the NBA. And I don't think in the modern history of this sport, when we put 3 superstars together like this, it's a different mentality. Like this isn't the Lakers trying to add, like Karl Malone and like Gary Payton to eke out a championship out of Kobe Bryant. This is 3 legitimate superstars, and I can't stress how important James Harden not having a championship is to this whole thing. This guy's gonna buy in to do whatever it takes. As you said, D'Antoni already there. Yeah, there's a lot of nightclubs in Brooklyn. I'm sure he'll be at some warehouse rave in like 2 weeks, even though it's against COVID protocol.
The local economy needs a boost. Exactly. Okay? Let James Harden toss singles all around New York City. It's good. It's good for business, okay?
He's closer to the Hamptons. I'm sure he can meet more women that are becoming bosses and take games off for that.
Listen, you want to talk about trickle-down economics? This is how it happens. This is the real way it happens. Is millionaires tossing 20s all over strip clubs. That's trickle-down economics, baby.
I don't think New York City is ready for this. The fact that we could potentially have, Kyrie, James Harden, Kevin Durant, and Andrew Yang as mayor, just Brooklyn's gonna be fucking wild.
And Joe Harris just in the back, like
just chilling. Oh man. No, but I like it. And honestly, like, I'm excited to see this, just like you. And the final component that I want to bring up from this, I've made it perfectly clear my thoughts on LeBron James on this podcast, right? I like him as a player, but I love when people make a situation that gets in the way of him chasing Michael Jordan, and the Nets did just that. I'm all in on this. I love it. And quite frankly, the fact that, it's not a given that LeBron's going to get his 5th this year, and the fact that Brooklyn is in the way, can't get enough of that.
Yeah, it's good. And listen, I mean, I don't know if people have been watching the Nets the last few weeks, but Kevin Durant is back. and he looks good, and he is motivated, and he is the alpha dog of that team, and it's pretty obvious. So I don't know. It's gonna be a fun season. I just hope everyone stays healthy.
Final thought on this: how long do you give this team staying together? 2, 3 years?
I mean, there's so much dependent on that.
Yeah.
But by the nature of the contracts and how many opt-ins and opt-outs and stuff like that, I would guess we get 1 to 2 years of this current lineup. But I do think we get an extended period of 2 of these guys.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of the plan. And that's the way you keep yourself out of draft pick hell in like 2025. But like Ruko said, part of the reason I'm not too nervous is the fact that I watch Sean Marks slowly and progressively, move after move, get out of the Billy King mess and manage to collect enough assets to do exactly what he did. There's a lot of ways to do it. And he's very smart. And I have a lot of faith in the fact that, like, even though it looks like you're mortgaging the future, I think that there are paths. There are paths.
And I love this Rockets rebuild right here. I mean, they turned Harden and Westbrook into Oladipo, Wall, and Cousins. Another low floor, high ceiling thing. I think if they can all stay healthy, a lot like the Nets, that's a team that can be, you know, in like the 6 to 4 seed in the Western Conference if everything breaks right.
Yeah, I mean, I think last night was a little bit of a teaser for people. They're like, oh, look at Christian Wood anchor this team, and they, you know, they're winning games. I think the Houston Rockets are going to be a nightmare of a team in probably 2 to 3 weeks. Once one injury sets in, one thing sets in, and it's going to go wrong this year. It's not about winning anymore.
Yeah.
You know, they didn't. The one thing that changed for Houston, and you know, the reason Brooklyn had to throw in this many picks was they didn't get a young generational player back, which was one of the things they said they were holding back for. So I think the plan in Houston is different now, and it's definitely based on the you know, the next couple of years moving forward and all these picks.
And I'm going to be really excited to see what Nate Bjorkgren does with Karis LeVert. I think he's going to get more than, you know, over 20 shots a game. I just really like the idea of him playing with Malcolm Brogdon and Sabonis.
That's a true, not a sleeper team anymore, because, you know, they have one of the best records in the NBA. But with, as you mentioned, all the problems the teams in the East are facing, Indiana has a pretty clear path to move to the top of the conference and stay there for most of the season.
All right, Benny, while we were away, I can't believe that I'm saying this, but the U.S. Capitol was invaded for the first time since 1812. Right-wing extremists, urged at the command of their leader, I guess you could say, took to the Capitol to try to overturn the results of the 2020 election. All of this stuff, as I'm reading this, I'm happy that I was off the grid last week, because it just seems like something that you couldn't even write in Hollywood, how in 2021 we're having the U.S. Capitol invaded. But, you know, on this podcast, we always talk about tech, entertainment, and all of that stuff. And these social media bans of Donald Trump from Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, all came down after this as people begin to distance himself from the lame duck president. But the interesting thing is, now, a couple months ago, we talked about John Tesh getting on Parler, and then we kind of joked about what's Parler, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
Well, apparently Parler now, well, as their CEO tries to distance himself from any wrongdoing here with Tara Swisher last week, but Parler seems to be the place where this right-wing conspiracy group plotted and successfully pulled off an invasion of the U.S. Capitol. So, Benny, a couple of fronts that I want to hit you with on this. A lot of people have been talking about how has big tech overstepped by suspending and kicking Donald Trump off of their platforms. And what do you make of the idea of true free speech on a platform when this could be a potential outcome?
Well, I mean, it's a complex question with a complex answer that people much smarter than me probably have the real answers to. But I think, it's something we talk about a lot on here, is that we're in a new time where former precedent doesn't work anymore. And like, with information at your fingertips and the ability to communicate, the idea of what is free speech and what is hate speech has grossly changed. These podiums used to be local. They were in front of small gatherings. If you had, you know, 12 KKK guys in a county somewhere down south, and they were just kind of screaming to each other, and they're allowed to yell because they're not actually doing anything. They're just talking about what they're doing. Well, if you take all 12 of these guys and give them usernames, and then they meet the other 12 and the other 12 and the other 12, and then hundreds of them decide to go to one place to try to like kidnap and kill people, well, then that podium just changed a lot.
Mm.
So the idea that it's like, is there a difference in free speech between one person to one person and free speech to people with a giant podium? Who should police that? They're questions that are really, really, really complex and gray. But what I do know is that they're all private companies. They're not government agencies. And every single person who signs into one of these is giving away a part of their information, is signing up for their rules and their codes of conduct when they do so. So this is where I think the conservative ideology gets really twisted when it just doesn't work in their favor. Because now it's a different kind of struggle. They're always talking about the protections of private business. Private business has the right to hire whoever they want, fire whoever they want, pay their CEOs whatever they want if they earn it, and blah, blah, blah. And just this ultimate protection for what they want to do. But now that it doesn't work in their favor, everybody wants to kick some sand in the air. It's almost comical sometimes to watch people who so desperately wanted to protect monopolies and corporations now having to like suckle at the teat of it and kind of you know fall for what's fall for it, I guess. And so Twitter is not like a government platform. It doesn't have to represent your free speech. So you have the right to get off Twitter and go on Parler. And then Amazon and Apple has the right to not carry Parler anymore and make it harder for you to find if they find it offensive. So I think the idea if a president should be banned on social media, I don't fucking know. Obviously, it was dangerous. Obviously, it caused a lot of problems. I don't know if it causes more problems in the future for the precedent it sets. That I don't know. But I do know this is different. And I do know that this idea that just like blanket free speech and what is hate speech, like the whole idea of it needs to change, because the things in our hands and the things at our fingertips are changing everything about society and culture right before our eyes. And if there's anything humans tend to do, it's go way too far and fuck something up before they learn. So maybe we can take the cautionary tales before they come and slow things down a little bit.
Yeah. No, I kind of look at it like this, right? With the whole social media thing, it's like man invents fire. Fire kind of allows, evolution, and you can cook food. But then somebody discovers that, oh, I can take this fire and burn somebody's house down, and you start
Right.
pillaging. That's essentially what social media has done here of late. You take that good thing and you can find the way to kind of try to pull you up, because that's essentially all these people are doing, is trying to better their own lives through whatever means they think is necessary. But you were exactly right when you said about these are private companies, and the heel turn that free speech has taken as being, and along the same lines that like kind of patriotism has
Right.
taken over the course of these last 4 years, as something that is like a fine line between being proud of your country, proud of some, because there are a lot of places that don't have free speech in the world. And it just seems like the radicalization of these ideas is not at all what the founding fathers had for this. But so it kind of shows that maybe some things need to be reeled in, and the only way to possibly reel in this is the fact that these are not government agencies, and the fact that if something's going to hurt their bottom line and is also a danger to society, they're completely within their right to tell even a president, hey, not this platform, go make your own. And because but by going through the time to have to make your own, and coming up with all of that, it's kind of like how like record labels, it's like if you get signed to a label, it's legitimacy. So
Right.
if you're on Twitter and you're in the social platform that has a lot of people and you can get your message out, that's more legitimacy than if Trump was trying to spew his nonsense to people on Parlor. So I think that it is the defining what free speech is something that we've been trying to do since 1776. It
Right.
just takes on a different vein when A, there's money involved, and B, when you have people thinking that everything is their God-given right. This upcoming week, the inauguration of Joe Biden is about to happen. And don't worry, before you think that we're getting political yet again, we're going to talk about some of the artists that are making their way down to Washington, D.C., passing COVID protocol and performing as part of this celebration. And, there's a big reason why we're talking about this. New Jersey's own John Bon Jovi's there. New York's own Lady Gaga is going to sing the national anthem. Demi Lovato is involved, and a whole bunch of others. So, Benny, what are you excited about? And when you're putting together kind of a program like this, what kind of artists do you think they look for as like kind of rays of hope, so that music can kind of fit the narrative of the entire weekend?
I mean, these political people are a lot smarter than me. So I'm sure there's a lot of intention behind the people that they get. But if Trump's inauguration was any sign of things, you got to get who will come play, you know? So, so I don't know. I don't know if the DNC reached out to Toby Keith and he denied them. Maybe, but I love the Gaga. She kind of represents like a lot of I don't know. I kind of see the inauguration, the way they set it up, almost the same way that they're setting up um parts of the cabinet and stuff like that. Not that's like I said, another story, because there's a lot of people getting appointed I could do without. But there is definitely a striving from this new administration to make the White House look like America, and take away the old stuffy white guys in suits thing, which obviously makes up a small portion of America. And they're trying to make things be more representative of what America actually is. And I think the lineup they got is kind of indicative of that. They got Lady Gaga, a New Yorker who's been very vocal about, gay and trans rights. Jennifer Lopez. Who else we got on there? Demi Lovato.
Yep. Demi Lovato, mentioned her. I think.
Any rock bands?
Oh, come on. I think.
Was it Jovi? Jovi's showing up, right?
Yeah. John's there, but just John, no band. Gosh, imagine if this was the time that we had the John Bon Jovi Richie Sambora reunion.
Yeah.
No, it's not gonna happen.
Listen, there's gonna be like what 20,000 National Guard there.
Yeah,
I'm sure there's some good musicians out of that 20,000. Should put together a couple National Guard bands, you know?
I believe that already exists. That's called
Yeah.
Goes Down, right?
A little cover series.
All right, Benny. So if Gaslight Anthem was slated to play the Inauguration,
Uh-huh.
and you only get one song from the entire catalog, what song
Ooh.
do you think would be the best one?
Oh man. I mean, right off
It's
all right, talk to me here. Am I thinking more for the TV audience or the live audience?
I mean it's got to be both, but I think in this particular scenario, it's probably more for TV since most people probably can't be there. While you think of that,
well, here's one of my issues: is the song that would come to mind would obviously be American Slang,
right?
But that happens to be one of my least favorite songs to play live because of its rhythmic, monotonous nature, which I don't think would play well to people who don't know the group.
Yeah.
So that being said, I don't know. I guess for a presidential inauguration, definitely Get Hurt. And maybe that could be a little slight. Just like, yeah, you're going to fuck us. I don't care who you are.
Well, we've all certainly been hurt the past 4 years, but we want to hear your recommendations. Email us at thetuneuppodcast@gmail.com. If you want to talk about, what Gaslight song you think would be played at inauguration, KD, any of that stuff, the inbox is always open. Find all of our content at the TuneUp HQ on Twitter and Instagram. And new for 2021, hey, we're on YouTube. This entire show, the entire video, it's there.
Oh no!
Subscribe, do all of that stuff.
Should have shaved.
We're all there. It's gonna be great. Join us for the party as we try to get to 1,000 subscribers. That's the goal for the time being, and then just build up from there. If you want to get in touch with the big man on social media, he is at Benny Horowitz 1, number 1 in your mind, number 1 in your heart, number 1 on Twitter. I am at Denny_Gallagher. Benny, you got anything else?
I like this video thing, Denny. You're gonna make me, as me and the kids have been talking about, getting some meat off my bones. So this is a good impetus, you putting me on video. There's nothing that drives a man like vanity.
Don't I know it? You've been listening to The Tune Up.